Welcome to the Monsters Among Us podcast. This is episode 21, Ogopogo. We're diving straight into the maybe chillier side of Okanagan Lake in British Columbia today. Now, if you know the Okanagan Valley, you probably picture, sunny summers, gorgeous lakes, all those orchards, wineries. It's a huge tourist spot, packed in the summer.
Absolutely, a real getaway. But right in the middle of all that scenic beauty, you've got Okanagan Lake. And it's not just any lake, it's vast. We're talking over 100 kilometers long, and parts of it are really deep, hundreds of feet deep. Easily enough space for something mysterious to hide.
Or something frightening, which is really where a lot of the older stories go, isn't it?
Exactly. The speculation about what's down there, it goes way back. And historically, it often leaned towards fear.
Yeah, the name Ogopogo itself, it sounds almost, cute now.
A bit playful, yeah.
But when you dig into those early accounts, the historical ones,
Mm-hmm.
it's a much darker vibe.
Definitely. We should probably start there with those older stories that really capture the fear this creature or idea inspired.
Okay, so where do these accounts begin?
Well, you've got recorded sightings from European settlers going back to the 19th century, but the indigenous peoples of the area, the Syilx Okanagan Nation, their oral traditions speak of something in the lake from, well, much, much further back.
Right, predating settlers by centuries. What do those traditions say?
They spoke of a lake being often described as, very long, sometimes 25, even 30 feet, often greenish in color was mentioned. And interestingly, quite a few early accounts describe a face, like a horse's face.
A horse's head, that's specific.
Yeah.
And kind of unsettling, maybe.
It paints a vivid picture, doesn't it? And not necessarily a friendly one.
And we see threads of that potential danger continuing into more modern accounts, too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Take Alan Gartrell's sighting back in 1984. He described seeing something with this incredibly long neck, he estimated maybe 14 to 16 feet long, moving powerfully through water that was otherwise still.
Just the neck was that long.
Yeah, and he figured the whole thing might weigh like 1,500 pounds, a substantial creature. And the key thing is, he said he saw this display, this picture show, as he called it, 17 times.
17. Wow. That repetition adds weight, doesn't it? Not just a quick glimpse.
It really does. It suggests something consistently observable, at least for him.
Okay, and then there was that kayak encounter more recently.
Yeah, 2009. Imagine this. You're out on your kayak, maybe enjoying the peace, and suddenly, an orange-like creature, described as being as big as the 18-foot kayak itself, appears right under you.
Right underneath. That would be terrifying. Just the sheer size, the unexpectedness.
Exactly. The report mentioned significant fear, understandably. It's that kind of visceral, immediate danger that feels very different from, say, a fuzzy souvenir.
Totally different. And it wasn't always solitary experiences either. What about Bill Stechuk's sighting?
Ah, yes, 1978. That one's notable because of the witnesses. He was on the floating bridge. Said he was skeptical himself initially, but then he clearly saw two black humps moving parallel with the bridge. And also some kind of head or head-like shape breaking the surface, dipping in and out.
Okay, humps in a head, classic description in some ways. But the witnesses...
That's the kicker. He estimated around 40 other people saw it too. Said traffic literally stopped on the bridge, everyone looking.
40 people. That's compelling. A shared sighting like that is harder to dismiss as just imagination.
It really is. It lends a different kind of credibility.
Now, thinking back even further, when the first European settlers arrived, around 1811, they're coming into what they see as, wild country.
Totally. Uncharted territory for them. And then they hear the existing stories from the indigenous peoples about this lake creature.
That must have amplified any existing anxieties about the place, right?
You'd have to assume so. These weren't local legends they grew up with. This was new, potentially dangerous information about their new home.
And the records suggest they really believed it.
Apparently so. Sources talk about many frightful occurrences linked to the lake creature in those early settler days. It wasn't just passive fear either. They reportedly took active measures.
Like what?
Like having armed guards patrol the beaches with muskets.
Wow. Muskets on the beach, waiting for a lake monster.
Seems so. And there were even apparently attempts to actually capture it, using large hooks and bait.
Trying to catch Ogopogo. That shows a serious level of perceived threat. Not just superstition, but a physical danger they felt they needed to deal with.
Precisely. It underlines how real and frightening this entity was in their minds. It speaks volumes about how people react to a perceived, powerful unknown in their environment.
We should also touch more on the indigenous perspective, the original understanding.
Yes, absolutely crucial. The Select Okanagan people have a relationship with the lake going back millennia. They traditionally refer to the being not as Ogopogo, but as Al-Ha-Ik, often translated, sometimes simplified as spirit of the lake or sacred creature of the water. Not necessarily a monster, but powerful.
So more of a powerful spirit than just a creature.
Often portrayed that way, yes. There are stories passed down through elders about nomadic tribes needing to make offerings, sage, tobacco for safe passage across the lake. There was a protocol, a respect required.
And consequences if that respect wasn't shown.
Indeed. There's a well-known story about a chief, perhaps visiting, who disregarded the ritual, didn't make an offering. The story goes, the lake, previously calm, suddenly turned treacherous. Huge waves, a daunting, scary lake.
Just because the offering wasn't made.
According to the legend, yes. And it gets more intense. To save the people in the canoes during the storm, the chief ordered their horses, which were maybe being transported or swimming alongside, to be released or sacrificed into the water.
Sacrifice of horses.
That's the story. The people survived the crossing, but when the horses later washed ashore, they supposedly bore giant claw marks and even bite marks.
Claw and bite marks. That's incredibly graphic and terrifying.
It really is. These aren't just quaint folk tales. They're conveying a serious message about the power residing in the lake, something demanding respect, something potentially dangerous if not approached correctly.
So across both indigenous traditions and early settler accounts, we get this picture of Ogopogo, or not nude, as something formidable, something genuinely feared.
A far cry from the smiling green mascot we see today.
Exactly. Which brings up the big question. How did we get from muskets on the beach and stories of clawed horses to, well, plush toys and ice cream?
That transformation is fascinating, isn't it? What was once this source of fear, this powerful entity, gradually morphs into a tourist draw.
Even the name change seems part of that, from Enac, with its deep cultural roots,
To Ogopogo, which, as the story goes, came from a popular 1920s British music hall song. Much more whimsical.
It feels like a deliberate rebranding almost, making the unknown manageable, less scary, maybe even profitable.
That certainly seems to be part of it. The commercialization is undeniable. You see Ogopogo everywhere in the Okanagan now. Fuzzy green toys, statues.
Yeah, the big statue in Kelowna. Kids climb all over it. Nobody seems scared of that version.
Right. It's on city logos, business names. I think there's even Ogo's ice cream.
Oh yeah, with that weird black licorice orange flavor, supposedly representing the colors sometimes reported.
See? Even the flavor becomes part of the legend building, but in a very safe, consumable way. Tour boats actively look for it now.
From patrolling with guns to actively seeking it out for fun, that's quite the shift.
It really is. But, despite the friendly image, the plush toys, the underlying mystery hasn't actually gone away. The lake is still deep, still long.
And the sightings haven't completely stopped either, have they?
No, people still report seeing unusual things. And some theories about what it could be are quite compelling, even if unproven.
Like the idea of a prehistoric survivor.
Exactly. The plesiosaur theory often comes up because, well, the classic description, long neck, flippers, maybe humps, it does sort of resemble reconstructions of those marine reptiles. The idea being maybe some became trapped inland when the glaciers retreated and sea connections were cut off, adapting to fresh water.
Like the kokanee salmon in the lake, which are basically landlocked sockeye.
Precisely. It's not unheard of for species to get isolated and adapt. So maybe Ogopogo is an ancient creature we thought was long extinct.
Or maybe something entirely new.
That's another possibility. We're still discovering new species all the time, even large ones in remote parts of the world or deep oceans. Why not a deep lake?
Then there are other, maybe more unusual theories, like Andrew Bennett's.
Yes. His theory is a bit different. Based on a sighting he had and photos he took, he believes Ogopogo might be more like a giant salamander-type creature. He's interpreted images as showing potential newborns, eggs, even adults camouflaged like logs. He points out things he thinks are eyes, nostrils, even tongues on these logs.
Camouflaged as logs. And he mentioned orange coloring too, didn't he? Linking back to that kayak sighting.
Yes. He suggested the orange might be camouflage, perhaps for a nesting site he believes exists. It's a detailed theory, though, based on his specific interpretations.
Of course, you also have the skeptical explanations.
Absolutely. And they're important to consider. Many sightings could potentially be misidentifications. Drifting logs are a common suggestion, even mentioned in a report from way back 140 years ago by Mrs. Susan Allison. Old logs can surface unpredictably.
Waves too, right? Even on a calm lake, weird wave patterns can form.
Yes, standing waves, or waves that seem to appear from nowhere due to wind shifts or boat wakes further away. A large motorboat wake could look like humps.
And just, well, large fish. Or swimmers.
Big sturgeon exist in some BC waters, though maybe not typically that big in Okanagan. Animals like otters or beavers swimming in a line can sometimes be mistaken for something larger from a distance. There are also natural phenomena like gas releases from the lake bed, or Seiche's internal waves that can make objects on the surface move strangely, even against the wind.
So lots of possible conventional explanations. And nobody's claimed those rewards offered for proof, right?
Correct. Various rewards have been offered over the years for definitive proof, a clear photo or physical evidence, and none have been successfully claimed.
Still, that lack of definitive proof doesn't erase the eyewitness accounts or the sheer persistence of the legend.
Not at all. And sometimes, even attempts to debunk or study it yield intriguing results. Remember Bill Stichuk, the bridge witness? Years later, in 1999, he was involved with a film crew on the lake. They weren't even actively looking at that moment, but the camera unexpectedly captured footage of 3 humps moving through the water. Apparently, it caused real excitement among the 14 people there.
So even on film, something unexplained appeared.
And he also mounted a more scientific expedition, didn't he? With sonar. Yes, a 3-week expedition. They used sonar, had divers, even a remotely operated vehicle, an ROV. Their sonar apparently detected a large object, estimated around 17 meters, that's over 50 feet moving along the lake bottom.
Whoa. Did they identify it?
No, they couldn't get a visual confirmation or identify what it was. It remained an anomaly. They also explored a cave near Rattlesnake Island where very cold water was flowing out, adding another layer of mystery to the lake's features.
So deep lake, strange sonar contacts, caves. It leaves the door open, doesn't
It
it?
certainly does. A lake over 100 kilometers long and hundreds of feet deep holds a lot of secrets. It's easy to see where the possibility remains.
It feels like the attitude has shifted again, maybe. Fewer outright skeptics, more people willing to entertain the possibility.
I think there's some truth to that. Perhaps less outright fear now, but maybe a growing acceptance that there could be a large, undiscovered animal there. And if there is, there's often a desire now to protect it rather than hunt it. The legend endures, but maybe the relationship to it keeps evolving.
So the mystery definitely persists. Despite the shift from fear to fuzzy toy, the question of what really lies beneath Okanagan Lake isn't settled. And that leads us, and you listening, with a final thought to chew on. Consider that journey. From the terror-inspiring Inaet commanding offerings and feared by settlers to the playful Ogopogo on t-shirts. Even without that final concrete proof, why does this story, this creature, still hold such power over our imagination? Why does it endure? What does this evolution tell us about how we grapple with the unknown, with the wildness that might still exist just beneath the surface of our familiar world? Something to think about.